The 2026 Morris Costumes animatronic lineup has been officially revealed, and while some people don't really like what we're seeing from them for 2026, what are my thoughts on these new props and animatronics from Morris Costumes? Find out in this video. So before I talk about the potentially interesting stuff, let's take a look at this new in 2026 pop-up Rabid Badger in trash can animatronic from Techie Design. Not sure what went wrong here with its one arm, but aside from that, this one is very unique. Not sure if it's up for retail this upcoming Halloween season, but I don't believe it is, because Spirit Halloween is actually rumored to be selling this same exact idea, only with a snake instead, even though I think the Badger would be a more unique option to them, who knows. The pop-up Rabid Badger in trash can is $154 through its wholesale price, but hopefully to God that the price remains that low because it isn't worth a full $200+. So now getting to the more interesting stuff from Morris Costumes this year, we have this scarecrow which goes by the name of Grimstalker Scarecrow. Sold for $180 wholesale price, this guy's pretty cool. And while you may be thinking that this is just another scarecrow, he's not, as his face sculpt and design is what stands out to me. His height is only 6 foot, which does suck, but you could easily make him taller by putting him on a stand of some kind. My only real issue with Grimstalker Scarecrow is his animation. As soon as I saw leaked pictures of him, I had high hopes that he would lunge quickly or something to that effect, but unfortunately he only does a slow lean out. This guy's being made by SingSong, a new animatronic manufacturer on the block, which I believe is based out of India and not China, because if you know, you know. And this wasn't the only new in 2026 animatronic made by SingSong and sold by Morris, because next let's talk about the two-headed Jack and Jill zombie. Better than Headcase Harry and coming in at $153 wholesale price, the Jack and Jill zombie animatronic is definitely a generic zombie character, but the fact that it has two heads makes it all the more unique. And I think if I'm correct, it's a mash-up between a male and female zombie, hence the prop's naming Jack and Jill. I will say that they could have done better with the clothing choice, but I get that they tried to go for nothing obnoxious nor too bland. Also, the posing that they did for the arms is pretty dumb with having them raised up, but at least for their 1 foot, the foot itself is inwards to make it look like it's broken. And before I forget to mention, this animatronic and another one in particular have something called blood and gore, something that whenever we do see it come out from hiding, it's only little speckles of it. Jack and Jill and another animatronic who I'll be showing in a little bit have this so-called gore involved in their characters. Whoopee guys, we got some clowns. Unfortunately, I won't be talking about them all since they're lame, though I do want to talk about the Hollow Clown. It still is that generic clown that we always get from seasonal visions, except this Hollow Clown has a sharp tooth mouth in its chest.
Now isn't that just cool or what?
And so here he is, everyone, Dr. Fangor. Right off the bat, this particular animatronic was the most anticipated one from Morris Costumes for 2026, and it definitely don't disappoint. Is Dr. Fangor better than Wanda Webworth from 2024? I have to be honest, but yes, he is. This is the most gory animatronic from Morris Costumes possibly ever, alongside Mangy Rat from 2023. He's definitely the most realistic animatronic as well, with his spider-looking face sculpt, and the spider-like legs shooting out his back. Not to mention his holding a pale-colored head, and people are saying that this very head is the human head of Dr. Fangor before he turned into the spider mutant he now is, because Fangor was a lab scientist or something like that before he turned into this spider mutant. This prop is priced at $174 wholesale, and so if you want him for your haunt or display, and if Morris Costumes is at Trans World this upcoming March, I'd recommend you take the opportunity to buy him just because he's that obscure of an item. Not going to say much about this animatronic either, just like I did with the clowns, but this is the forest creature sold for $224 wholesale. It's basically the Wendigo from both Party City May You Rest in Peace and Halloween Costumes, only this version is downsized and isn't original per se. It uses the same head from the Wendigo, but then it uses some chest plate from a handful of other props, and the lantern from the corroded Rising Reaper from Morris Costumes' 2025 animatronic lineup. This is definitely the definition of quantity over quality, and I find this idea kind of last minute too. But Time Demon on the other hand here isn't so much of a last minute animatronic addition. While people may compare his head sculpt to Fire Demon's head sculpt, it's really cool looking nonetheless with the spikes around his face and all. Now I don't know if you see this in the design of Time Demon, but to me he looks like a big Scare Factory animatronic except on a budget. Speaking of the budget, Time Demon is priced at $190 wholesale, and for a 7-foot demon prop who's manufactured by I believe Seasonal Visions International or Seasons, that's a pretty good price considering that again, if you know you know. Finally we're at the home stretch with this video with these props, minus this one because it's just another one of those seesaws. The witch on the broom is just a generic witch, only I'm thinking it's rated for outdoor use. This horseman's pretty lame and generic as well, even though I had high hopes for it, but then we have this one. Originally I thought this was a hunchback animatronic, only it's a unique witch in some ways. Instead of the usual pointed hat witch, this is more of a hag if you know what I mean. In addition to her unique look, she's got a gimmick that not everyone will like, that being a candy dispenser. Unlike Trick or Treat Pete who literally vomited the candy through his big maw, the lantern witch here is holding a dish or a bowl in her one hand, thus that is where you place the candy. Hell, you can honestly place anything on the dish like a prop skull or something like that. Overall, the 2026 Halloween animatronic lineup for Morris Costumes is pretty decently good this year unlike other years, and now that Sing Song is going to be more relevant in prop lineups like Morris and even Lowe's, I'm curious to see how other retailers will handle working with former big manufacturers like Seasonal Visions and or Techie Design. I'm also definitely interested in some of the new animatronics from Morris Costumes like the Grim Stalker Scarecrow No Surprise, and the Lantern Witch with the candy bowl depending on how the released model of her looks. Even the pop-up Rabbit Badger I like, but I'll leave someone else to buy it. But until the Lowe's 2026 manager meeting happens, where we'll get to officially see all the interesting props and animatronics including this crazy looking guy, check out this video where I explain my initial thoughts on this year's campground theme for Spirit Halloween.